To make these earrings, you'll need wire, and this is 24 gauge silver plated wire. You'll need 2 beads. We have square beads here. This is probably Jasper or something like that, but you definitely want to do square beads for this. That's the fun of these earrings. You'll need 2 earring wires. Ours are silver to match the wire. And then for tools, you'll need round nose pliers, wire cutters, and chain nose pliers. These are optional. To get started making our earrings, the first thing we want to do is cut a piece of the wire. This is 24 gauge silver plated wire. I'm going to uncoil a little bit of it and cut a piece about 7 inches long. And this is the wire that we're going to use to wrap the bead. So I'm going to take one of my beads and feed the wire through the hole in the end. Is it here? No, here it is. There's the hole. And I'm going to let a piece stick out the end that's a little more than an inch. Maybe that's 1.5 inches here. That's going to end up being our wrap loop at the top. But we're going to do our wrapping first before we do that loop at the top. So the wrapping, we want the wire to wrap across the front of the bead. I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to bend it up over the top of the bead, the front of the bead, like that. I'm going around the right side of the wire that's sticking out there, and I'm going to go all the way around it, the top wire there. That's going to anchor this wire in place so it'll stay on the front of the bead. I'm going to flip my work over here because now the wire's coming out the back. I want to do this wire down the back just like the other side has a piece of wire coming down it. So I'm just pressing that up against the bead, kind of mushing it into place a little bit. And then I'm going to flip the bead back over to the side where I had my first wire. The first wire is coming down on the right side. I'm going to go up and go to the left side here. And I'm going to go around again. I'm just rotating the bead to make that wrap. You could also take the wire and pull it around like that if you wanted. And then I'm going to go down and around one more time. This wire is on the left side of that top wire. That our first wire was on the left side. So this one's going to come down on the right side. And I'm going to flip this over again. And this is where we started with our first one. And our second one, this is our third wrap coming up. And I'm just going to come up the side there. And I've got 2 on one side and 1 on the other. You're just going to wind up with 2 on one side, 1 on the other, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to take this end and I'm going to wrap it around the top kind of loosely. I'm not trying to make this perfect. I want it to look kind of artsy and handmade. And so I'm just going to take that tail and wrap it around and wrap it around. You can also rotate the bead to wrap it around like that. And then I want to trim that little end with my wire cutters. I'm just going to reach in there and trim it as close as I can. That little piece. And this is where if you have chain nose pliers, if you want to press that end down, you can use your chain nose pliers to press that end down a little bit. And now we just need to make a wrapped loop at the top. And to do that, we're going to use our round nose pliers. I'm going to pinch the wire just above our wrap work there. And I'm going to bend the tail end of the wire 90 degrees. I'm rotating this bead a little bit so that my loop will be flat in the same plane as the flat bead. So I'm going to make a 90-degree bend. I'm going to reposition the pliers to the top of that bend. I'm going to make a loop away from me around the top jaw. Then I'm going to put the bottom jaw in that loop so that I can pull it all the way around, like that. Now I'm going to hold that loop across with my pliers, and I'm going to use this tail. Oh, I've got the tail pinched in my pliers there. To meet up with the other wraps we had. So I'm just going to wrap that tail around and around like that. And then I'm going to trim that little end like we did with the other one. Oops, use the flat side up against my work. And there's our first earring. And you can see by the way I made that loop, it's in the same plane this way as the bead is this way. I don't want the loop to be sideways to the bead like that. I want the loop flat that's going to help them hang right when we put them on the earring wires. So now I can slide the earring loop over the earring wire. If it doesn't fit over that bead, you can put it in the back. Whoops. And there's our earring. And see how it hangs straight because we made that loop this way. Now I just use my pliers to close that earring wire like that. So there's our first earring, and I'm going to do that again so you can see it one more time. I'm going to cut another piece of wire about 7 inches long, and I'm going to feed it through the hole in the bottom of the bead. Leave about 1.5 inches at the top. That's going to be that wrap loop that we did at the top there. And now I'm going to go up and around to the back, down the back, back up the front, on the other side this time, around, back down the back, and then back up the front. Whoops. Back up the front, like that. So that time I did it without flipping it over each time, so you kind of get a sense for which ones were on the front and which ones are on the back. So we've got 3 wires on the front and 2 on the back. And now I take this long tail and I'm just going to make this sort of loosey-goosey, fun little wire swirl at the top. And just wrap that all the way around there. And then trim that end. It's hard to get that very last end to bend around. So just get it to bend as much as you can and then trim off that little straight end. And then I'm going to make a wrap loop at the top. And I don't want to make the loop this way. Like I said, I want to make it this way. Pinch it just above that wire work. Make a 90-degree bend in the wire. Reposition the pliers to the top of that bend. Push the wire away from myself. That's making the loop for me. That top jaw is round and is making the loop. But I can't get it all the way around. I have to move to the bottom jaw to get that loop complete. I pull that all the way around there, like that. Hold the loop across, and then take this wire and just wrap it around so it meets up with all that other wire work. And then I'm going to trim that little end. And now we put this one on our other earring wire, like that. Use my pliers to close it. And if you want, as a last little thing to do, you can manipulate these wires a little bit. One of these is kind of crisscrossing in front of the other one. So you can just run your fingers down alongside them and push them into place where you want them. And those are our fun little, whoops, wire work earrings.